Aw, thanks, guys. Hey, everybody. My name is Alex Merced. Now, before we get started, I'd like to just do a few things to kind of get the energy set here in the room as we begin from our previous break. First, what I'd like you to do is I'm going to say lake, and I want all you guys to say house. Okay, so I'm going to say lake, and then you're going to say house. Okay, let's try that one more time. Lake. Awesome. Okay, just that way we get those energy levels nice and locked. And number two, one of the things when you're always presenting is that you sit there and you present, and then afterwards you realize, oh, I wasn't able to take pictures of the presentation. So if anyone takes pictures while during this presentation and tags me on LinkedIn, it'd be very appreciated. But with that, let's begin. Again, my name is Alex Merced, and I'm here to talk about the state of the data lakehouse. Now, this is a survey that we did at Dremio, where basically we had several respondents talking about, and we asked them questions about data lakehouse, like, do they know what a data lakehouse is? Have they adopted a data lakehouse? Have they adopted a table format? Which table format did they adopt? Several questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the findings of this. Now, again, why did we do this? Well, because we're, Dremio, the data lakehouse platform. We try to basically create a platform that unifies all the things you need to create a really nice unified package to have a data lakehouse that feels like a data warehouse right on your data lake with unified analytics, a powerful SQL query engine, lakehouse management features, and so forth. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. And we've seen that many customers have seen benefits of being able to reduce their median time to insight, so to be able to get that data to where they need it faster, be able to reduce their costs, which are going to be some of the themes you're going to see when we take a look at the responses from our survey recipients. And again, my name is Alex Merced. I'm a developer advocate here at Dremio. I've spent the last 2 years basically going everywhere, anywhere to talk about Data Lakehouse, to talk about Apache Arrow, to talk about Apache Iceberg. If you already connect me on LinkedIn, you've probably seen me probably more than you care to. I can imagine there's some faces being like, yeah, you post a lot, Alex. But I try to keep busy. I'm also one of the co-authors on Apache Iceberg, the definitive guide, which you can get a free early release copy. I will share this QR code again at the end of the presentation. So if you don't have a chance to take a picture now, there will be another opportunity. But again, we conducted the survey because the data lakehouse matters a lot to what we do at Dremio. Okay, we have definitely a vision of sort of how can we make operations and shifting left, taking more of your analytic workloads, moving them more to the data lake, for executing that data lakehouse pattern. So the question is that happening? Are people adopting this? So we did this survey, the State of the Data Lakehouse survey, which again, at the end, I'll have a link to where you can download the full survey, take a look at all the data and all the results. Okay, but we basically asked questions of 500 respondents who were all data practitioners, data engineers, data architects, of all types. This was conducted by an independent agency. So they went out, collected the results, reached out to the people, put everything together. And we covered several different areas. So the first area is data lakehouses. Okay, so the first thing we had to ask was, well, do people know what a data lakehouse is? I remember when I first started, a lot of the presentations I was doing was still very much on just kind of helping people kind of get to the idea of what is a data lakehouse. It's that it wasn't just a marketing term, but there was actually an architectural pattern there. And looking at it now, we've come a long way. Okay, the data. When you take a look at everyone who's been talking about the data lakehouse for the last few years, now you're starting to see about 85% of the respondents were very comfortable, very familiar with what is a data lakehouse. And again, that's key because the first step to adoption is awareness. You can't adopt something you're not aware of. Okay, so in that case, if awareness is up, does that mean adoption's up? Well, adoption looks pretty good. When we take a look at, oops, that's the wrong button. When we take a look at it, we see that basically most of our respondents expect on average 69% of their analytics to be on the data lakehouse within the next 3 years. Okay, so that means a lot of movement of workloads are in the process, have moved, or are going to move from wherever they are now to the data warehouse, to the data lakehouse. Now the question is why? Like why? We get it. Okay, so you know what the data lakehouse is, and people are adopting it, but are they just doing it because it's a fancy term and it sounds exciting? Well, no, there's big benefits of it. And when we take a look at the reason why, okay, it's because we see that over 50% of our respondents expect to see a reduction of costs on average of 56%, okay, or actually have already experienced over cost savings of over half. And a good example is that we do this weekly broadcast called Gnarly Data Waves over here at Dremio, and we had S&P, Standard & Poor's, do an episode about some of their findings. And after adopting the data lakehouse, they cut their TCO by 50%. That just one example alone. So it was a really good episode. I really highly recommend it. It's not a long one. But if people are saving money, they must be moving those data workloads from somewhere. So taking a look at the responses, we see that a lot of those workloads, 42% of that data is coming from cloud data warehouses. So people are seeking to save that money, saving that money in the additional replications of their data, the egress costs, the compute, all that stuff. So at Dremio, if you go to dremio.com, you can find that we do have a white paper showing talking about how you save money when you move to a data lakehouse versus a data lakehouse versus data warehouses. That's something you can find. Now, in the next section of our survey, we talked about open table formats, which is the topic we're all here to talk about today, right? We're all here to talk about Iceberg, because Iceberg is cool, like bow ties. Okay, for all the Doctor Who fans. Quick show of hands. Who here watches Doctor Who or has watched Doctor Who? Okay, a few people. Okay. I'll have to find references that more people appreciate. Okay, so here we go. Open table formats. Okay, first question we have to ask is like, okay, one, have they adopted a table format? Okay, and again, I remember still a couple years ago, people still didn't know what a table format was. A lot of times, people had heard of Apache Iceberg, heard of Delta Lake, but still weren't really quite sure what their role was in the big picture, the whole idea of a table on the data lake. But now, I mean, you see we have 56% of people who are adopting a table format, and you get up to 90% if you also include the people who are going to adopt a table format within the next 3 years. Okay, so basically everyone, for the most part, is moving to the data lakehouse in some shape, again, in some size, shape, scale, or form. And then we ask them, okay, well, what table format did you adopt? Okay, and we take a look, and we ask the question twice. One, to the people who have already adopted a table format, taking a look at just sort of current adoption, so it's more of a backward-looking number. Delta Lake had the lead, with Iceberg in a very strong second. But more interesting is looking to the future, because the future is where, well, the opportunities, the movement lies. And we take a look at those who plan adoption over the next 3 years, we see a strong lead for Iceberg as far as who people are adopting over the next 3 years. Okay? So, and then again, a big reason for that is because everyone talks about Iceberg. Why? Because it's a community platform. Okay, you have several companies who contribute to the development of it. You have several companies who are integrating it into their products. Okay, because it is that sort of that even playing field, that open community project that everyone is a part of and everyone works together on, and it's pretty amazing in that regard. Okay, the ecosystem is the #1 reason to adopt Apache Iceberg. Okay, and then for the final section we'll be covering today, not the there's a lot more on the survey, so I do recommend downloading the survey. We're talking about data mesh, because data mesh is another trend that kind of really comes in part with data lakehouse patterns. Because while data lakehouse allows you to say, hey, I have one copy of my data on my data lake that I can use multiple tools on, okay, data mesh allows me to break up that data and then break up the division of labor and how we create that data, all in the name of handling scale, right? Because basically we kept more and more data. Okay, if I can have different teams working on it, that makes the job a little bit easier, hopefully. And if I can have, and I don't have to make as many copies to use all my tools, that makes life a little bit easier, so we can deal with that growing and growing scale of data. Okay, so when it came to data mesh, this was a pretty big number. We saw that 84% of respondents had either fully or partially implemented data mesh. Now, granted, if you ask 10 different people, what does a data mesh implementation look like, you'll probably get 10 different answers, to be fair. But still, that means there's a huge buy-in in the concept of a data mesh. People are looking to implement a data mesh, and that is a positive sign, okay? Because again, when it comes to data lakehouse, data mesh, again, these are all things that we take very seriously at Dremio as when we build our product around having the unified analytics so that we can curate a governed semantic layer, so that way different teams can collaborate to curate the data, a query engine that can query your object storage very fast, and a lakehouse management features to help basically make it where working on your data lake feels like you're working on a data warehouse. You're not thinking and tweaking as many knobs as you usually would. Okay, and again, helping people shift left to do more work in their data lakehouse. Now, in this final slide, so this is the time to take out those cameras and start taking pictures. I got several resources for you guys. Now, the first one over here, this purple QR code, that is a QR code to find a tutorial where you can build a data lakehouse on your laptop. So that way, if you want to see how easy it is to start using Iceberg, and just really literally, you'll set up Dremio, Minio, write some Iceberg tables, and you'll be done in like 5-10 minutes. It's pretty easy. This QR code right here, all the way to the right, that's the data lakehouse survey. So if you want to download and see all the stats for the data lakehouse survey. And then there at the bottom is the QR code to download a free copy of Apache Iceberg, the definitive guide. So the book is finished now. Okay, so either already or in the next couple of weeks, that early release link will have the full manuscript of the book, and the book should be coming out April, May. You can already pre-order it on Amazon, so that'd be cool. But otherwise, please also please add me on LinkedIn if you haven't already, and check out the podcast. I talk a lot. I like talking data, as you can tell. And yeah, again, I want to say thank you to Upsolver for having me here at this great event, and congratulations on all the amazing features you guys announced today. And with that, that wraps up this presentation. And I will give you guys a second to take a little more pictures, and then we'll start getting the next speaker up on stage. Thank you guys so much.